this week's drive, we get all tangled up in Belgium, get back into the wall in Milwaukee, get up high, down and dirty, and see that you're never too old to go racing. All this and more in this week's Drive. The Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium hosted rounds 11 and 12 of the 2005 World Touring Car Championship season. Reigning champion Andy Priaulx took an early lead in his BMW from Alfa Romeo's Augusto Farfus, who'd started from pole position. Then Germany's Michael Funk flipped his Ford Focus at Eau Rouge, causing the safety car to be deployed for 2 laps. Racing resumed and championship leader Dirk Muller passed Farfus on lap 2 to move into second place. Muller then closed in on Priaulx, who eventually succumbed to intense pressure from the German and surrendered his lead on lap 5. Priaulx trailed Muller by 5 points in the championship before the race, and the Briton stuck close to his rival, trying to reclaim the lead. Farfus did his best to keep out Dirk's brother Jorg with some aggressive driving. Dirk crossed the line in front, with Priaulx 0.2 of a second behind, while Jorg Muller made it a BMW 1-2-3 after holding off Farfus to finish third. The top 8 drivers on the grid were reversed, so Fabrizio Giovanardi started race 2 from pole. There were fireworks further back as Priaulx got caught between Dirk Muller and Farfus, all leaving the wet track at the first corner. Muller and Farfus continued, but Priaulx retired on lap 2. Giovanardi's Alfa Romeo led Antonio Garcia in his BMW ahead of Jorg Muller. The safety car returned on lap 4 after Thomas Klenker was clipped by Nicola Larini going into a chicane, forcing him across a patch of wet grass and into Jordi Genet. But the chaos wasn't over. In the last lap dash to the chicane, the leading pack of Giovanardi, Gabriele Tarquini, Dirk Muller and Antonio Garcia all tangled. Stefano D'Aste had worked his BMW up from 17th on the grid and found the track full of spinning cars and drove across the runoff area to rejoin the track in front of Giovanardi. D'Aste crossed the finish line in front, the first independent driver to win a WTCC race. With the chase for the Cup looming, NASCAR was at the Pocono Raceway for the Pennsylvania 500. Tony Stewart was lucky. His crew noticed a flat tyre and changed it before the start, and Stewart kept his grid position. Kurt Busch had the strongest car from the beginning, taking the lead from pole setter Jamie McMurray on the first turn of the first lap. When Kyle Busch slammed into the turn 1 wall with 50 laps left, it was the first major crash of the race and brought out the caution. Despite some heavy damage, he was able to drive it back to the pits. 13 laps later, the race again went into caution after Joe Nemechek suffered a flat tyre.
But they just can't capitalize on it. And this happened going down the back.
With 18 laps remaining, Kurt Busch passed Rusty Wallace for first place. Wallace, who will retire at the end of the season with 4 career Pocono wins, was unable to regain the top spot in the rest of the race.
Hey, that looked pretty easy, didn't it?
7 laps later, Mike Wallace got hit by Jeff Gordon. Wallace spun out in the middle of the pack. Nemechek, just behind the accident, lost control and ended up on the infield.
Nice move by Wimmer.
I don't think Wallace.
Or Elliott Sadler, I guess.
Ooh, Nemechek.
Yeah, Nemechek.
Goes around.
On lap 195, Greg Biffle's tyre went flat too, and Michael Waltrip rear-ended him. The rear of Waltrip's car slammed into the wall, forcing the 10th caution flag of the day.
And Michael just has no rear.
After the caution was lifted, Waltrip's damaged car spun again.
His deck hood has been bent up and blocking the rear spoiler, so you're right. No force at all.
Because of all the cautions, extra laps were added to the race, and on lap 202, Casey Kane hit the wall, forcing yet another yellow flag. The race ended under yellow flags, with Busch, who also won at Phoenix, winning and claiming a 7th top 5 finish. Air temperature soared to 36 degrees and the track temperature reached 52 degrees to torment Indy Racing League drivers and spectators on a hot, muggy day. Double champion Sam Hornish took pole position with a track record in qualifying at the Milwaukee Mile. Hornish led off the line and stayed out in front for the first 112 laps before being passed by Dan Weldon, the series points leader.
a key, actually, when you have a situation.
Rookie sensation Danica Patrick was running sixth on the 126 of 225 laps when it appeared the rear of her Rahal Letterman racing car slid out from under her, sending her rear end first into both the outside and the inside wall at the second turn. She escaped injury despite the force of the crash.
Yellow Pennzoil car.
Patrick's teammate Buddy Rice also crashed on lap 168 with a suspected rear wing or rear suspension failure. His car burst into flames, but luckily Rice managed to get away in time. Despite a sore foot, he was declared fit to drive by the track medical centre.
Obviously a little sore. This is one of the racetracks that we have that does.
On lap 187, Hornish was running inside his Team Penske teammate Helio Castroneves as they jockeyed for fourth place. Hornish's left rear wheel hit the right front tyre of Castroneves, who spun into the wall, destroying his rear wing. Hornish was leading on lap 212 when his car slid on a patch of oil. He managed to regain control, but Dario Franchitti snatched the lead. Hornish regained the lead for good 5 laps later. Franchitti held second and Thomas Scheckter was third, followed by Kanaan, Weldon and Brian Herter, the last driver on the lead lap. It was Hornish's second win of a season and 14th of his career, and it moved him into a tie for second in the points race with Dario Franchitti, 68 points behind Dan Weldon. The Red Bull Air Race Tour moved on to the Rock of Cashel in Ireland for the fourth leg of the 2005 World Series. Rock of Cashel Castle provided a stunning backdrop, and the tight racetrack over the undulating Irish countryside also laid down one of the more difficult flying challenges. Over 60,000 spectators lined the field surrounding the historic castle. Heavy rain early in the day almost forced the cancellation of the event. Organisers deemed that it could go ahead, but powerful gusts of wind later in the afternoon made conditions extremely difficult, and the competition was reduced from 2 rounds of racing just to 1. The first 3 air races of 2005 used courses that were either over water in Abu Dhabi and Rotterdam or an airfield, as at Zeltweg. Essentially, the pilots were flying over flat surfaces, but not so in Cashel. In all, the pilots were required to make 13 gate crossings just 20 metres above the ground and perform 2 aerobatic manoeuvres at speeds of up to 400 kilometres an hour. It was Hungary's Peter Bussenier who coped best. He maintained his superb form this season with a time of 1 minute 9.2 seconds, over 2.5 seconds clear of his nearest rival. A superb clean run gave him maximum points, and his second win of the season moves him to the top of the World Series rankings, 3 points clear of the USA's Mike Mangold. France's Nicolas Ivanov was second with a career-best performance. He also managed a penalty-free round 2.2 seconds off the pace. Mike Mangold, who led coming into the event, could manage only 5th in the challenging conditions, seeing his chances of a 3rd victory this season disappear when he picked up a 10-second penalty for touching a gate with his wing.
It was a very good race. I enjoyed the track so much and the location. The conditions were not really ideal. So the rain and the wind and the bumpy air, it was not really good for us. But I think all pilots did a very good job.
The 5th leg of the 2005 World Series takes place at Longleat in England, and Budapest and San Francisco will host the remaining rounds. Science is increasingly important in the quest for speed, and no more than in long-distance endurance races. Backed by armies of skilled technicians and engineers, teams of drivers fight the course, the clock and each other for a whole day and night, and their cars need to perform at their maximum, at sustained high speeds, and stay together for as long as 5,000 kilometres at a stretch, making a joke of the 300-kilometre jaunts of a Formula One Grand Prix. This year, the French Pescarolo team had a weight advantage over its rivals, thanks to a collaborative effort with the European Space Agency. Pierre Brisson is responsible for technology transfer at the European Space Research Centre.
When we send something into space, we immediately think of miniaturization, durability and reliability. Every kilo we send into space costs 100,000 euros, so it had better work when it gets there.
Pescarolo's car uses carbon composite materials which are often used in the construction of satellites. The Pescarolo started at the front of the grid and crossed the finish line 24 hours later in second place. Hopes of victory dashed when a humble water leak required an extra 2-minute pit stop. André de Cotanze is the team's technical director.
A racing car is a complex technical assembly using many novel ideas. And for it to be competitive, you need to use not only resistant and lightweight materials, but you often have to deal with thermal loads that are similar to those found in space. These are carbon parts. Traditionally, they were made from aluminium. But by using composites, we save half the weight and they are twice as stiff. There's also vital heat insulation. Here, it's between the motor and the fuel tank. Only 6 millimetres thick, it provides near 90% heat resistance.
Motor racing gives space engineers the chance to test weight, heat resistance, strength and reliability without leaving the ground.
These elements come from composite materials developed for and used by satellites in particular. And inside the car there are others, particularly safety devices. We've used the same thermal protection that we use on the Vulcan motor in the Ariane rocket.
Another similarity between racing and space exploration is the desire to go faster and further for longer. 80 years ago, Henry Ford believed that racing improves the breed. Then, as now, motorsport offered an opportunity to test new technologies before introducing them in mass-produced cars. Forged in the heat of motorsport, testing processes and parts for satellites does the same, before sending them into space where the failure of a small component would cost tens of millions. Although the team didn't win the Le Mans race in 2005, the ESA-Pescarolo partnership have their eye on the future. The Sachsenring circuit hosted round 10 of the MotoGP season, the German Grand Prix. American Nicky Hayden made a good start from pole position, but the race was halted under a red flag when John Hopkins was left lying on the track following a spectacular crash. The American was not seriously injured though, and the race, shortened to 25 laps, was restarted. Hayden led for the first lap, but the delay appeared to have put the Honda rider off his rhythm, and Valentino Rossi cruised into the lead at the start of lap 2. Sede Gibernau also passed Hayden, and the Spaniard soon had Rossi in his sights. Rossi eventually conceded first place to Gibernau, the only man who looked likely to lift his title last year, but who's endured a dreadful season so far this year. But a late mistake saw the Italian reclaim the lead. Gibernau was desperate to hold off the challenge of Rossi, but the Honda rider gifted victory to his rival by outbraking himself on the first corner of the last lap. It was Rossi's 76th win in 150 Grand Prix starts, putting him level with Mike Hailwood in third place on the list of all-time victories. A disappointed Gibernau had to settle for second place, while Hayden finished third.
The race was very tough, for sure. It was a great battle. Anyone are able to go. We are 3 or 4 very close to the end. At one time, start a lot of problem, a lot of sliding on the left rear tire. But I lost also the second position for Nicky. But at the end, I was able to come back, and I was ready for the battle with Gibernau for the last lap. For sure, will be an hard battle, but unfortunately he did a small mistake in the first braking, and he go wide, and was more easy.
4 times and reigning Premier Class champion Rossi moves 120 points clear of his nearest rival, compatriot Marco Melandri, but the battle for second couldn't be closer. Alex De Angelis started the 250cc race from pole position, with champion Daniel Pedrosa looking to move ahead from second place on the grid. But after the first corner, Jorge Lorenzo led Hiroshi Aoyama and Pedrosa. San Marino rider De Angelis fought his way back up to the front, only to concede the lead to Pedrosa on lap 12 of 29. Pedrosa then pulled away from De Angelis and went on to win his 5th race of the season. De Angelis held on for 2nd place and Japan's Aoyama completed the podium places. The Spanish teenager consolidated the defence of his title at the top of the 250cc standings, but it's revealed he will race a Honda in the MotoGP class next year. There was drama from the first corner of the 125cc race. 3 riders collided in the middle of the pack and slid off the track, with a 4th going wide to avoid the carnage. All 4 riders escaped serious injury. Another crash later in the race saw the red flag make an appearance. Manuel Poggiali's Gilera was left in the middle of the track and the race was brought to a premature end. The final positions were taken from the standings at the end of lap 20, so Mika Kallio picked up his 2nd win of the season. Luthi of Switzerland claimed 2nd place to move to the top of the 125cc standings, while Italian Marco Simoncelli finished in 3rd. Round 12 of the Motocross World Championships took the paddock to Belgium. Race 1 saw home favourite Stefan Everts fall at the 2nd corner and drop to the back of the field, the lead assumed by Brian Jorgensen of Denmark. Hot on his heels was Michael Pichon, and the hard-charging Frenchman soon took the lead. Jorgensen on the number 8 Yamaha was soon embroiled in a 3-way battle for 2nd with Pascal Leray on bike 47 and Joshua Coppens. Both eventually found their way past the Dane, but it was New Zealander Coppens who stretched away in the chase of race leader Pichon. Also charging was the championship leader and multiple world champion Everts, making up good ground after his early fall to challenge Jorgensen for 4th place. Coppens had ridden hard, but Pichon cruised unchallenged to the checkered flag. The Frenchman was never seriously threatened. Pascal Leray did well to finish 3rd, half a minute behind the leaders, to make it an all-Honda podium. Buoyed by his earlier success and determined to spoil Everts' home Grand Prix, Pichon scorched into an early lead in race 2, ahead of a much encouraged Jorgensen. Again, a couple of riders fell off at the 2nd corner. But as the race progressed, Everts began to reel in the leaders. Firstly, Jorgensen fell to the charging Belgian, and before long, Pichon was soon in his sights. Coppens was defending his 3rd position from another Belgian rider, Ken de Dicker. Everts soon closed up on the leader and was aggressively attacking Pichon's lead. It looked as if Pichon would hold on, but an error at the jump on the finished straight proved costly and forced him to go the long way round, handing the lead to Everts. Everts crossed the line to win ahead of Pichon and Josh Coppens. Fittingly, 3 Belgians completed the top 6, Ken de Dicker, Manuel Prim and Joel Smets. 1st and 2nd places hand Pichon the Grand Prix victory ahead of Coppens. Everts finished 3rd, but still leads the championship from Coppens with 5 events remaining. Round 13 is in Loket in the Czech Republic. Although the first qualifying round for the Speedway World Cup was held in England, the Danish team were the clear favourites on the night. Against the Czech Republic, Russia and a British team ravaged by sickness and injury, Denmark was expected to forge ahead early and force the rest to play catch-up. But against the odds, it was the British team who opened up a 4-point cushion over Denmark, helped by the exclusion of 2 Danish riders in the first 6 heats. They added 1 point different over the next 10 tightly fought heats until Lee Richardson, suffering from a stomach complaint, made this astonishing pass on Nicky Pedersen on the last corner of Heat 15 to give the Brits a 6-point gap at 37 points to 31. Denmark called on their joker to add double the riders' points to his team's total. Hans Andersen kept ahead of Simon Stead to win and double the winners' points, coming within 2 points with 9 heats remaining. A Bjarne Pedersen win for Denmark and 3rd place for British rider Joe Screen reduced the hosts' advantage to 3 by Heat 20, and the pressure was mounting on the youngsters in the British squad. The Czech Republic stayed 1 point ahead of the Russian team. But Chris Harris, in his first outing for the Great Britain team, rode flawlessly, moving from third to win Heat 21 and give his team a 5-point lead with 4 heats remaining. In an evening that from the start was clearly between Britain and Denmark, pressure was also mounting on the Czech and Russian teams. For either team to keep alive dreams of reaching the final, one of them must come third and enter the race-off. And with only a 3-point difference in the Czechs' favour at 17-14, they decided to call upon their joker, and thanks to an inspired ride from Alex Drümmel, it paid off. He saw off Dane Charlie Kajeda, Englishman Joe Screen, and importantly, Russian Denis Gitsatalin, to confirm his team's position in the race-off. It was the Czech Republic's first win of the evening, and its importance clearly delighted Drümmel. The next heat was equally important for the British team. Lee Richardson's win over Bjarne Pedersen confirmed the round 1 victory for them. They now go straight to the final. Round 2 takes place in Sweden, where Poland, Australia, Germany and Sweden will battle it out. The winner confirmed a slot with Great Britain in the final. Lee Richardson's teammates gave him the traditional 3 bumps for securing the maximum and essential 15 points in the evening with 5 wins from 5 starts. And finally, it was an unusual day at the motor racing circuit at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. Not racing cars, but battery-powered electric buggies were competing on the asphalt track. Dozens of old-age pensioners from 13 Dutch elderly homes were trying out brand-new rear-wheel drive buggies on the track before racing each other across an obstacle course. The event was organised to promote greater mobility for the elderly and infirm and fight loneliness in nursing homes. Electric buggies, called scootmobiel in the Netherlands, are a simple and safe means of getting out and about and therefore of keeping social networks open. Fitted with comfortable seats, armrests, handlebars and shopping baskets, the pensioners were quick to get familiar with the buggies and soon lined up to race each other in the Dutch Championship electric buggy racing for the elderly. With a top speed of just 12 kilometers an hour, the race was more about skillful manoeuvring than speed. The contestants, mostly in their 70s and 80s, had to drive twice around a 250-meter course of plastic cones, speed bumps and wooden ramps.
In the Netherlands there are approximately 1 million people lonely, of which 200,000 people are extremely lonely. That means that they never get visit of other people, which is a very serious situation. Now we always ask the Dutch people to visit those lonely people, but they're very difficult to find. Therefore they can help themselves by buying something like this or getting something like this to guide themselves so that they can go whenever they want to whoever they want, and that we think very important in our in combating isolation.
The contest kicked off a pilot project in which old people's homes are given 2 scooters for common use for 6 months. The fund will then launch a campaign hoping to convince companies to sponsor nursing homes by paying for the scooters. After recording the best cumulative times over the course, a Rotterdam team from De Singles Older People's House clinched the first prize of a new electric buggy, a trophy and the traditional winner's bottle of champagne. So whether you like flicking through the air, sliding across the track or just biting the dust, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.